I want to tell you about a wedding reception. Mine. Not the ceremony was everything I had wanted. Small, honest, full of the people we loved. My husband cried when I walked in. My mother held my father's hand. The officiant said things that were specific to us rather than generic to weddings, and the whole thing lasted 40 minutes and felt exactly right. The reception was different. The reception was where the Calloway family showed me, in front of 140 guests, exactly what they thought of the woman their son had married. Not loudly. Not with a scene. With a specific, precision-crafted performance of people who have learned to be unkind inside the forms of being kind. His mother made a toast. It was a beautiful toast. Technically, every sentence was correct. Every sentiment was appropriate. She talked about her son with warmth and specificity and the genuine love of a mother who adores her child. She mentioned me once. In the final sentence. And to the woman Thomas has chosen, we wish you both well. The woman Thomas has chosen. Not my name. Not his wife. The woman he had chosen. As though I were a piece of furniture he had selected from a catalogue. I sat at the head table and I smiled and I raised my glass and I drank. Thomas squeezed my hand under the table. He had heard it too. What happened in the 6 months after that reception, and what I said in a room full of the same people 6 months later, is the story I want to tell you today. But first I need to take you back. If you are new here, please subscribe right now and drop your country and local time in the comments. I read every single one. Now let me take you all the way back. My name is Nadia Williams. I am 35 years old. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, the daughter of a high school history teacher and a pediatric nurse, two people who had built a life of genuine substance and who had raised me to understand that substance was not the same thing as appearance. This distinction matters to the story. Because the Calloway family, Thomas's family, had spent generations optimizing appearance. They were old Atlanta money. Not the largest fortune in the room at any given gathering, but the most entrenched. The kind of family whose name appeared on buildings and whose history was told at dinners and whose sense of themselves was so thoroughly established that introducing anything unfamiliar into the structure produced a specific, automatic resistance. I was unfamiliar. Not in the way of a stranger. Thomas and I had been together for 3 years before the wedding. His family had known me for 3 years. They had attended dinners and holidays and the specific circuit of events that his family organized around itself with the precision of people who understand that presence is a form of power. I had been present. I had been correct and warm and appropriate at every occasion. What I had not been was accepted. Not in the way I mean it. There is a specific kind of acceptance that goes beyond tolerance and beyond politeness and beyond the appropriate performance of welcome, the kind that says you are one of us now and we mean it. The Calloway family had not offered that. They had offered the other kind. The managed kind. The technically correct kind that communicates clearly, to anyone who knows how to read it, that you are a guest in something rather than a member of it. I had read it. I had read it for 3 years and I had made a decision about it. The decision was to be patient. To do the work of building a real relationship slowly and correctly and to trust that time and consistency would eventually shift something. I was wrong about the timeline. But I was not wrong about the approach. Thomas is the only child of Richard and Margaret Calloway. Richard was 64 years old at the time of our wedding. He was a retired corporate attorney who had spent his career building the specific kind of professional reputation that opens doors in Atlanta and who had, in retirement, devoted himself to the management of the family's interests with the same methodical attention he had once devoted to his clients. He was warmer than Margaret. Not warm, warmer. The distinction is important. He shook my hand firmly at every occasion and asked about my work with genuine if limited interest and did not say things that were obviously unkind. Margaret was 61. She had spent her adult life as the keeper of the Calloway family's social architecture, the dinners, the events, the relationships, the specific careful management of what the Calloway name meant and who it was associated with. She was very good at what she did. She was also the person who had made the toast. I want to tell you about the 6 months after the wedding. Because the 6 months are the story. The reception was the beginning. What happened in the 6 months was everything that matters. Thomas and I talked about the reception on our honeymoon. Not immediately, the first 2 days were about being married and being together and the specific joy of a commitment that has been made and is now simply real. But on the 3rd day, sitting on a beach in Portugal with the sun doing what it does at 4 in the afternoon and nothing else requiring our attention, he brought it up. He said, "I want to talk about what my mother said." I said, "I know." "She said your name once," he said. At the end, I said. "I counted," he said. The toast was 4 minutes long. She used my name 11 times. She used the phrase "my son" 7 times. She used your name once. In the last sentence. "I know," I said. "It was deliberate," he said. "Yes," I said. He was quiet for a moment. "I am sorry," he said. "Do not apologize for her," I said. "You did not do it." "I should have said something," he said. "You squeezed my hand," I said. "That was what I needed." He looked at me. "What do you need now?" he said. I thought about it. "I need to handle this myself," I said. "I need you to trust me to handle it and to support me while I do. But I need to be the one who does it." He held my gaze for a long moment. "Tell me what you are thinking," he said. I told him. The Calloway family held an annual dinner in January. Not a casual dinner, a formal event, held at the family's country club, attended by family and the specific community of business and social connections that the Calloways had maintained for decades. It was the annual gathering that signified membership in the Calloway world. The invitation list was managed by Margaret with the same care she managed everything. Thomas and I had attended the previous 2 years as a couple. This year we would attend as husband and wife. I had 6 months to prepare. I want to tell you what preparing looked like. Not revenge. I want to be precise about this because what I am about to describe could be mischaracterized as revenge, and it was not. It was something more deliberate and more lasting than revenge. It was becoming undeniable. I had not been, in the 3 years before the wedding, presenting myself fully in the Calloway family context. Not dishonestly. But incompletely. The way you are sometimes incomplete in environments that have not yet made room for all of you. In those environments you tend to fit yourself to the available space rather than requiring the space to expand. I had been fitting myself to the available space. For 3 years I had shown the Calloways the version of me that was appropriate and correct and warm and polished and professionally accomplished in the general sense that they could categorize without being destabilized. I had not shown them the full version. The full version was more than they had accounted for. I am a partner at a law firm. Not a junior attorney. A partner. I made partner at 32, which is, in the legal community, understood as something specific and significant. My practice area is corporate mergers and acquisitions. My client roster includes companies whose names the Calloway family would recognize because several of those companies are the kinds of companies that the Calloway family's world intersects with. I had not, in 3 years of Calloway family dinners, talked about this specifically. I had said I was an attorney. That I worked in corporate law. I had answered questions about my work when they were asked, and they had not often been asked in the kind of detail that would have required me to say the full thing. Margaret had never asked what my specific practice area was. Richard had asked once, early on, and I had answered briefly and he had moved on. They knew I was an attorney. They did not know what kind. They were about to find out. The January dinner. 112 people. The country club ballroom. The specific, formal warmth of an event that has been held in this room for 20 years and that everyone in attendance knows by heart. Thomas and I arrived together. We had talked about the evening extensively. Not scripted, I had not scripted anything. But aligned. We understood what we were doing and why and what we needed from each other. He needed to support me. I needed to be present. We were shown to our table. The Calloway family's table, the primary table, the one that seats the family and their closest connections. I was seated next to Margaret. This was not an accident. Margaret managed the seating. She had seated me next to her because she had spent 21 months of the marriage managing our proximity, and she understood, with the specific precision of someone who has been managing social architecture for 40 years, that proximity is control. She could monitor what I said from the seat next to me. She could redirect conversations. She could manage me. She had been doing this for 3 years. I let her seat me next to her. Because I had something to say and I needed to say it close. The dinner proceeded. The courses. The conversations. The specific, pleasant surface of an event that has been held enough times to run itself. Then the business conversation. This happens at every Calloway January dinner. After the main course, before dessert, Richard opens the floor for what he calls family business updates, the professional developments of the family and its associates that deserve acknowledgement. Thomas updated them on his architecture firm. Richard's cousin updated them on his financial advisory practice. 2 family friends updated them on their respective businesses. Then Richard looked at me. He said, "Nadia, I understand you had a significant year professionally." He had heard something. From Thomas, perhaps, or from someone in the professional community who knew us both. He did not know the specifics. The table was looking at me. Margaret was looking at me. I said, "It was a significant year." Richard said, "Tell us." And I did. I told them. Specifically. Precisely. In the specific language of my professional world that required no embellishment because the facts themselves were sufficient. I told them about the merger transaction I had led. The size of it, the specific dollar figure that I had spent 3 years not mentioning at Calloway dinners because it had not seemed appropriate. The client. The complexity of the deal. The outcome. I told them about the partnership. What making partner at 32 meant in the context of my firm. What it meant in the context of Atlanta's legal community. What it meant in terms of my position and my trajectory and what the next 10 years of my career were expected to look like. I did not perform any of this. I described it. In the specific, practiced tone of someone who has presented to boardrooms and has learned that the quieter you deliver significant information the more it lands. The table was very quiet. I looked at Margaret when I finished. She was holding her water glass. She was looking at me with an expression I had not seen from her before. Not hostility. Something more unsettled than that. The specific expression of someone who has been managing the frame around a picture and has just discovered that the picture does not fit the frame they constructed. She had managed me for 3 years inside a frame that had me as the woman Thomas had chosen. The woman Thomas had chosen was a partner at a law firm who had led one of the significant merger transactions in Atlanta that year. The frame did not fit anymore. Richard said, "That is impressive, Nadia. That is genuinely impressive." I said, "Thank you, Richard." I picked up my fork. I continued eating. Margaret had not spoken. After dinner, in the specific social hour that follows Calloway events when people circulate and conversations fragment into smaller groups, Margaret found me near the window. She said, "I did not know the specifics of your work." I said, "No. You did not." "I should have asked," she said. "Yes," I said. She looked at me. "I want to say something," she said. "About the wedding. About the toast." I waited. I did not use your name the way I should have," she said. "I have thought about it since. I want you to know I am aware of what I did." "Are you aware of why you did it?" I said. She held my gaze. "Yes," she said. "Tell me," I said. She was quiet for a long moment. "Because I had not made room for you," she said. In the way I think about this family. In the way I talk about Thomas. I had not let myself see you as part of it. And the toast reflected that. I looked at her. I am part of it, I said. I am his wife. I am going to be part of it for the rest of your son's life. And the version of me that you have been managing for 3 years is not the full version. She said, I understand that now. Good, I said. Because I would like to start over. Not from the wedding, that is behind us. From tonight. From this conversation. I would like to build something real with you if you are willing to try. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, what would that look like? It would look like you asking me real questions, I said. And me answering them. And you understanding that the answers are going to be bigger than you expected. She almost smiled. They already are, she said. They are, I said. Margaret and I have a different relationship now. Not transformed. Not warm in the way that warmth suggests ease and absence of history. But real. Built on what is actually true rather than on the managed frame she had been maintaining. She calls. Not to check in the way she calls Thomas, she has not yet found the natural rhythm of calling me the way she calls her son. But she calls. With specific questions about specific things. About my work. About cases she has read about in the Atlanta business press that she has started paying attention to because she knows I am in that world. She used my name at last year's January dinner. 7 times. I counted. Not because the counting mattered. But because it told me something about how much the frame had changed. Thomas noticed. He did not say anything. He squeezed my hand under the table. The same hand squeeze. A different meaning. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a room where someone had decided what you were before they knew you? Have you ever spent time fitting yourself to a frame that was too small for the full version of you? And have you ever had the experience of simply becoming undeniable? Drop the word frame in the comments if this story reached something real in you. And if you are new here, subscribe. Every single day I share a new story about family, about truth, and about the people who stopped fitting themselves to frames that were too small. I will see you in the next one. Kayla's Dark Truth.